We're dissecting a transcript from Quantum Nexus, when you finally see reality as code you transform. It argues reality is programmable information, and you can debug your life to change it.
Right.
We have 4 big structural edits, so let's just jump right in.
Let's do it.
So a theme that's going to run through this whole critique is pacing, and specifically where the author puts their strongest evidence for, maximum impact.
Okay.
The manuscript, as it is, it buries its most compelling proof of concept, that safety equals familiar suffering case study, way, way too deep. It just delays the listener's buy-in.
Yeah, that's laid out so clearly, and I can see exactly where that friction is coming from. If you look at the current flow, it feels like the author has this huge burden of proof.
To explain the how before you even get to the why.
Exactly. So you spend all this time on a preamble about digital resources, then that sort of abstract story about the guy in the coffee shop.
And then the heavy quantum theory. John Wheeler, It from Bit.
It's a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, fascinating stuff, don't get me wrong.
Oh, for sure. But asking an audience to digest It from Bit before they know what problem you're even solving for them, that's a massive ask.
It is. You're front-loading all the cognitive work. And then, I think it was, page 4 or 5, almost halfway through, we suddenly get the story of Sarah.
And the Sarah story is electric.
It really is. I mean, for anyone who hasn't read the source, she's in this, 36-month loop, a destructive relationship.
Right.
And every time she tries to leave, something happens. A financial crisis, a medical thing. And it just pulls her right back in. She thinks she's cursed.
And the author reveals she's not dealing with trauma, not in the classic sense. She's running a line of code.
Safety equals familiar suffering.
That's the hook. That is the moment this whole thing stops being a physics lecture and becomes a survival tool.
Yes. It's the strongest emotional anchor in the entire piece, but by putting it after the quantum mechanics lecture, you have to wonder if you've already lost people.
People who aren't into physics or who are just, busy.
Exactly. They might have tuned out before they realize, oh, this is actually about me.
I think you're absolutely right. The emotional utility has to come before the theory. You lose them in the coffee shop, you never get to save them with Sarah.
So what's the fix?
The suggestion is a pretty big one. You invert the structure. Lead with the Sarah case study as a cold open.
Move the proof right to the front.
Precisely. Imagine the piece starts, right away with, for 36 months, Sarah tried to leave. Every time, the world pushed her back. She thought she was cursed. She wasn't. She was running a line of code. Safety equals familiar suffering.
That's immediately more gripping. It creates a mystery and a promise in, 20 seconds?
And then you pivot. You say, she changed that one line of logic to safety equals navigating the unknown, and she was out in 14 days. And once the audience is hooked, thinking, how did she do that?
Then you say,
this wasn't magic. This was executable code, and here's the science behind it.
Ah, that makes so much sense. It shows the utility first. It answers, why should I care, before the listener even asks.
Exactly. It buys you the goodwill to then explain the dense physics. The audience will sit through John Wheeler because they want the result that Sarah got.
Okay, I like that.
Now, building on that idea of the code framework, let's go to our second point.
Let's.
The material is strong on reality as information, but the metaphors, they're fighting each other. The quantum probability fields and the software debugging ideas create a kind of terminological friction.
I felt that too. It's like the author is trying to keep one foot in the, let's say, New Age camp and one foot in the simulation theory camp.
And I get why you want a wide net, but I think it just dilutes the power of the main metaphor. When you mix them, you just confuse the instruction.
Right. You see phrases like calibrating consciousness, energetic fields, vibrational frequency.
Right next to subroutines and loops and if-then logic.
So you're oscillating. 1 minute we're vibrating high, the next we're debugging syntax.
And here's the issue with that. Vibration is a very, very common trope in the law of attraction space. It's almost generic.
So it loses its unique edge.
It does. If I hear raise your vibration, I might just think this is a rehash of The Secret. The title is reality as code, not reality as vibration.
So the suggestion here is to commit.
Commit fully. Commit to the software and coding vernacular. It's what will make this stand out. You have to strip away the woo-woo language and replace it with DevOps language. The author just needs to trust their own premise.
Okay, so what would that actually look like in practice?
Let's get concrete. The text talks about the energetic field of panic from the coffee shop guy. It calls it a frequency.
Okay.
A revision would replace that with system overload Or maybe he's broadcasting a distress signal. Instead of vibrational frequency, you say he's running a background process that's eating up local bandwidth.
I like bandwidth. It feels more clinical, more precise. It implies a finite resource, which adds stakes.
It does. Or look at the observation effect. The text uses the standard quantum explanation, collapsing waves and all that. It's fine, but we've all heard it.
So the code approach would be?
Explain it as rendering. The code renders the graphic interface based on user input. Simple as that.
That's much fresher. It's like reality is a video game engine. It just fits the whole theme perfectly.
Exactly. It leans into what makes the title unique. If you promise code, give me code, not energy. It makes the whole method feel less like a sermon and more like a technical manual.
Which is very empowering.
It suggests that if you learn the commands, you can control the output.
And that's a great pivot, actually, into the how-to part of this. Because if it's a technical manual, the instructions need to be precise. You can't just say code better.
No, you can't, and that's the next point. The three categories, survival, identity, and narrative, they're brilliant frameworks, great buckets.
But
the actual mechanism for rewriting them, it lacks a kind of visual, step-by-step syntax for the user.
yeah, that's a critical gap. The text is great at identifying what the programs are. It'll say, identity code declares I'm not innovative. That's clear.
Very clear.
But then the process for rewriting it just kind of gets lost in these narrative anecdotes.
It's like showing someone a finished app and saying, see, I coded it, without showing them the source code.
Or the compiler.
And that story the author tells about changing his own logic from if recognition increases, then danger increases, to if recognition increases, then impact increases.
That's the core mechanism.
It is. That if-then statement is the magic wand, but it's just buried in a paragraph.
It feels like a detail, not the main tool.
So the suggestion here is to make it the tool. Break down the code rewrite into a formal syntax update exercise.
So you're moving from a story to a strict protocol.
Exactly. Create a whole segment called the Syntax Rewrite Protocol. Literally visualize a command line for the audience.
I can see that. Slow it down. Step 1, isolate the bug. The user says, I self-sabotage when I get visible.
Right, that's the symptom. Now, step 2, identify the source log. You have to translate that symptom into code. So you're right, if visibility is greater than X, then danger equals true. Force the user to find their if and then.
That's so concrete. It forces them to see the causality they've created.
Exactly. Then, step 3, input new logic. You overwrite the line, if visibility is greater than X, then opportunity equals true.
And step 4?
Step 4, run the verify loop. The text mentions a 7-day tracking challenge way later, but it feels disconnected. Bring that right here. That's the enter key.
That transforms it from a cool idea into a workable algorithm. It gives the listener something to actually write down. Here's my old code. Here's my new code.
It operationalizes the whole thing. If you want people to debug their lives, you have to give them the debugger.
This actually leads perfectly into our final point. We've talked structure, language, tools. Now we need to talk tone, specifically how the author handles skepticism.
Yes, the section on permission code. It's a fascinating concept, but the framing, it creates a potential barrier.
So the idea is that some people have programming that just prevents them from seeing the code. Intellectually, it makes sense inside the framework. It explains why some people just don't get it.
Right.
But I do wonder if the tone risks sounding a little defensive or even dismissive.
Well, let's look at the line. It says, their permission code won't allow them to perceive what I'm pointing.
That's the one. It creates a closed-loop argument, doesn't it? It implies that if you disagree, it's not because the argument might be flawed, but because you are flawed.
You're just programmed not to understand.
Yeah, it feels a bit like if you don't like my work, you're just not enlightened enough.
And that can alienate the exact people you want to reach, the critical thinkers who might just have questions.
So the suggestion is a reframe.
A big reframe. Reframe permission code not as a flaw in the listener, but as a universal security protocol or a firewall.
Oh, that's a subtle but powerful shift. A firewall is a good thing. We all want a firewall.
Exactly. A firewall is a feature, not a bug. It's there to keep your system safe.
So instead of saying, your permission code won't let you see this, how would you phrase that to be more inclusive?
You'd frame it as that system firewall. You'd say something like, your system is designed to protect your current reality. It views this new information as a potential virus, as a threat. That skepticism you're feeling, that isn't wrong. That's your security software doing its job.
It's trying to keep you safe.
Right, but here's how to whitelist this new concept.
That is so much more inviting. It validates the listener's hesitation instead of pathologizing it. It says, your skepticism is smart. It's a security measure.
It makes them feel safe enough to lower the shield instead of feeling attacked for having it up. It turns the skeptic into a sophisticated system administrator, not a blocked person.
And it keeps the code metaphor totally consistent. I respect your security, but let me show you why this update is safe to install.
Point. So let's tie it all together. Let's recap the main moves.
Okay, 4 big structural updates to take this from good to great.
First, the hook.
Lead with the safety equals familiar suffering story, the Sarah story. It's your most powerful proof of concept. Don't make the audience wait for it. Hook them with the utility before you explain the physics.
Second, the language.
Commit to the bit. Strip away the generic quantum and vibration jargon. If the title is Reality as Code, then use words like rendering, bugs, system overload, and firewalls. Be the DevOps of reality.
Third, the tool.
Operationalize the advice. Formalize that if-then logic into a clear step-by-step syntax rewrite protocol. Give the user the literal command line syntax to change their own mind.
And finally, the tone.
Reframe permission code. Skepticism isn't a user flaw, it's a security firewall. It's a high-level protection mechanism. You validate that skepticism and you invite the critical thinker in.
These are sharp, really actionable changes. If the author implements these, I think the piece goes from an interesting monologue to a truly transformational guide.
I agree. It moves from interesting to essential. So, to our listener, we invite you to apply these structural code up. Run the syntax rewrite on your own draft. Move Sarah to the front and submit the revised version for a final system check. We'd love to see how it renders.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the version 2.0 release.
Until then, keep debugging.